Hey everybody, welcome back to the Snorlax Den. So right now, it's the day of Pokemon Scarlet and Violet 151 release, and I'm still waiting on my orders to ship. It'll look like they're going to go out today, but I probably won't get them till next week, so I'm somewhat patiently waiting for that to show up. And I'm pretty excited about that. I really love the artwork in the set, and I think it's going to be a really good set overall. I'm a little bit concerned about the pull rates on the set. I think it's going to be very hard to master, but at least we don't have the Master Ball mechanic, which I think would make it even more difficult to go after. I think it'd make it much more challenging. I think the prices would drive up because the demand would go way up if we did have the Master Ball. It is a huge disappointment, but that's something that at least makes the Japanese special set or the Japanese set special. And that's a little bit what I'm talking about today. So again, I'm excited for that to show up because I'm going to record a video where I open up a comparison between the Japanese 151 and Scarlet and Violet 151 side by side. Just to do a quick comparison, obviously we're going to pull some similar cards. So just wanted to be able to compare the quality of the cards in real time as we're opening it and talk about it. And today's video is a look at Obsidian Flames. So similar to the video that I did a little while ago comparing Scarlet and Violet base set to the Japanese version, I'm going to do a comparison of Obsidian Flames. And this one's a little bit different. One advantage is that those two sets are extremely similar. And it was really one set in Japan and one set in English. So a little less comparison from that standpoint. Also, I think one of the other things that makes it much more similar as well is it's, if it's not Charizard, it's not interesting in some cases. So it's a pretty decent set to compare overall. And I think it's a lot easier since it's much smaller, so it's an easier set to master. And, if you're thinking about jumping into Japanese, it might be a good first set to try and jump into to do a master set. And if you love the English, it'll probably be a pretty good option as well. So let's go ahead and kick over to the content. So comparing Japanese to Pokemon 151, or not 151, Ruler Black Flame, Obsidian Flame. So a quick look at some of the stats. The English base set is way bigger than the Japanese, almost a full 90 cards bigger. And you might be wondering, where did those cards in Japan go? Why are they not in there? So some of those cards are some of the EX cards and some of the cards that go with it, so that the evolution lines. And Japan made some specialty decks that you can buy. So like one of them is the Houndoom EX deck. And so that's where Houndoom is. It's in that specialty deck in Japanese, but it is not in the Obsidian Flames deck. So much smaller set in Japanese for commons and uncommons. Secret rares, again, which is really what we're comparing, for the most part, exactly the same. No changes on that. So total cards in English, 230. Total cards in Japanese, 141. Super, super small set. Price of a booster box right now is still about $90 to $100. It probably won't go below that because that's really pushing the cost limit for a lot of distributors. So they can't go much lower and still turn a profit. It may dip below 90, but probably not for very long. If we look at the booster box price for Ruler of the Black Flame, it's gotten extremely cheap. So we're now seeing it around $70 to $80. I've seen it under $70 before shipping. So some pretty good options there if you wanted to jump into it. So if you look at the total packs per booster box and the total cost per pack, actually this is one of the few sets in Japanese that's cheaper overall to buy than its English counterpart. And again, I think part of it was just due to the fact that it was not a wildly popular set overall. Outside of Charizard, there's just not a lot of interest from collectors, which is really a shame because there's a lot of really great artwork that doesn't even make the top 10. So let's go ahead and talk about it. Obviously, we've been talking Charizard. Charizard's the number one card. And I structured this a little bit differently than my last video. Instead of doing a direct comparison between the English and Japanese cards, I really looked at what's the number one card in English, number one card in Japanese, 2, 3, all the way down. So you'll see that it'll start to deviate as we dive down into it. But it's really looking at the top 10 values in each set. So for this one, The Charizard SAR, or Special Illustration Rare, is the number one, about $70 currently in English, and these prices do change. So even from the time that I typed it on the slide to I went back and checked later, it's actually gone down even just a little bit more, most likely due to the fact that 151 is coming out, and so demand for Obsidian Flames is going to start to drop. And the Japanese counterpart is listed at 274. Again, different price determination. The English is from TCG Player, which is much more real time, as those prices change fairly regularly, and so there's a lot more fluctuation. The Japanese cards, since that's not tracked on TCG Player, is from a site called PriceCharting.com, and so they're really just looking at sales on eBay. So that's kind of, it's we'll call it watermark for where the card might be, but in reality, it might end up being lower than that, and we would expect that it's going to continue to drop, I would say, over the next few months until it starts to bottom out. And then as it stops getting open, people just keep holding on to sealed product. We'll probably start to see that rise up again, just because there will be fewer cards on the market and for people that want to master that set. Second card, same in both sets. This is the Charizard Ultra Rare, the gold card. So nice card, not too exciting. Not a lot of people are getting really excited about the gold cards these days, but again, another Charizard card, significantly lower in English. So we went from a $70 card price down to $27, and even in Japanese, it's almost half what the Japanese price was. So $274 down to $123. So a significant drop overall on that. All right, third up, English loves Charizard. So Charizard hits the number 3 slot as well. So this is the illustration rare. I know this is the gold was the illustration rare. Or no, the gold was the hyper rare. This is the illustration rare. So just a little less expensive than the gold, $22.85. Japanese, it's the Poppy. So kind of that waifu or the trainer aspect. A lot of demand for that. So that one was last at $69.40. Again, a card that I would expect to continue to drop over time, just from the demand on that. And then, wow, Charizard hits the top 4 slots in English. I'd say that's pretty similar to what Darkness Ablaze has done, from what I understand. That was primarily a Charizard set. So this is just the regular English or the double rare in the set, sitting at 1906. Another trainer, Gita, is the number 4 card in the Japanese, sitting at $36.97, close to $37 overall. So we're seeing the trainers are much more in demand with the Japanese set than English. All right, this slide down. This is where Charizard got bumped down to, with the 2 trainers popping in above them at $36. And the interesting thing is that card is still more valuable than the gold Charizard that was sitting at number 2. In the English deck, it's the Pidgeot EX, special illustration rare. So that's at $12.55, and that's in part due to the fact that Pidgeot has some potential in the actual trading card game. So being able to be part of decks, we're seeing where that has some competitive play, and so there's some demand for that for the Pidgeot specifically. Next up is the Ninetales in English, which that's a gorgeous card. I've actually pulled it twice in English, and I think I might even have one of it in Japanese as well. Really love the artwork on the Ninetales. Kind of a simplistic design, really cool. It's like sitting in the forest and the sun shining down on it, and it's just glowing like in the middle of a glen, like a clearing of a forest. Really amazing artwork. And you see the Pidgeot EX in Japanese, so still in demand there, and it is really cool artwork. So I'm certainly glad that made it into the top 10 in Japanese. And I think for Obsidian Flames, it's not just a Charizard set, it's also a Pidgeot set. So we see Pidgeot takes another slot here in the top 10 in English. $6.75 for this one. So this is the ultra rare, or the illustration rare. Super cool card. Really nice artwork on that. Poppy making another appearance here for the illustration rare or the art rare, secret rare. Sorry. So that's a 2638. And down next, EX. So this is the double rare. So 2 double rares making the top 10 in an English set, ahead of all the other special illustration rares. Pretty unheard of, I think, in most cases. Even when they have competitive play, a lot of times there's significant demand for those special illustration rares just because the artwork is so amazing. The Gloom, the Houndor, there's a lot of really amazing cards that I think from an artistic standpoint would rank higher here. But again, competitive play seems to be more of value for this set overall, just because there's not a lot of demand. And the Japanese deck, apparently gold cards are very interesting. So the basic fire energy makes it into the number 8 slot for the Japanese deck. And then similar, basic fire energy also makes it there. And that's due to the fact that some competitive players like having that energy type, that very cool rare energy within their decks. So they're willing to seek it out just to kind of bling their deck out a little bit. And if they're going to be running Charizards in their deck from a competitive standpoint and need that fire energy, then that's certainly an option for them as well. Not to be outdone, the last gold card in the set is number 9 on the Japanese side, the Artisan. I don't get that one. I don't really think it's that interesting. I don't think it's exciting. I mean, the artwork is cool, and it's a gold card. But other than that, I really don't think it belongs in the top 10. Again, I think there's a lot more interesting special art rares in the set to bump that out. And then if we look at the number 10 slot for this, we have the Pidgey, which again, that entire Pidgeot or Pidgeotto line with this highway theme is pretty cool. I really enjoy the animated artwork on this. So unfortunately, the Pidgeotto did not make it in here in the top 10, but that entire progression is pretty neat from my standpoint. So that's sitting at $5.21. And then over on the Japanese side, it's the Ice Cube EX special art rare, sitting at about $20. So if we look at the sets side by side, and we just look at the number of cards above $10, English is about 5 cards right now, 5 or so cards at above $10, and the Japanese is about 14. So overall value, the Japanese set wins out again, not unlike the Scarlet and Violet base set. And this is a quick summary of the top 10 cards in each. So I've listed out which cards those are and their total value. So again, if you pull the top 10 cards, which in Japanese would not be that easy to do because there's so many special SARs in there, and you're not even guaranteed to get one of those in a box. I had a box that was just pulled the other day, and the best that I got was an art rare. It was the Absol. So even if you pull all of those, about $600 in value. Over on the English side, you're looking at about 182, 183. Which the interesting thing is, you have the potential to pull a lot of those within a single booster box. Because there's only a couple special illustration rares, I've seen it done where you pull 2 to 3 of the different Charizards, potentially up to 3 out of the 4 within a single booster box. So it's possible to reclaim that value, but if you don't pull that Charizard special illustration rare, you can't really capture the value of that box back, because you're sitting at $90 to $100 for that box, and everything else that makes it up is very difficult unless you also pull the double rare Pidgeot, the double rare Charizard, and you're able to pull some of those other high reasonable value cards out of there. And again, pretty difficult to pull all 10 of the Japanese cards, but that's kind of the way it goes. But again, just a comparison to give you an idea of kind of how you can start to look at collecting these different sets, how you want to do some comparisons on your own. If you watch any of Danny Phantom's videos, a lot of what he does when he starts talking about pull rates and things of that nature is really talking about the fun cost. So from that standpoint, what he does is he pulls up what cards you can pull from the booster box, what those pull rates look like. And I think for Obsidian Flames, he did a pretty detailed video of 10 or 12 booster boxes that he opened and calculating that fun cost. What's the value of the cards that you pulled and what's left over between how much you paid and what you get, because you're very unlikely to get your full value of that box back as your fun cost. And obviously you want to minimize that as much as possible. You want to get as much dollars back out of that as you possibly can. Not always possible, especially with some of the sets that come out. Again, Rule of the Black Flame and Obsidian Flames was really very Charizard heavy. Not a strong trainer in there that people had a lot of desire for. The Gita was pretty cool. The Poppy was interesting, but just not interesting enough to catch the attention of people. And even though, again, there's a lot of really cool artwork that's in the set, it just didn't garner the same amount of demand. And I think part of that was just due to the fact that 151 had so much press beforehand. 151 released before Ruler of the Black Flame in Japan. So everyone saw that, and I think there was just a lot of pent-up demand for Scarlet and Violet 151 that people were willing to buy some Obsidian Flames but not go heavy into it. So I wouldn't be surprised if you see a lot of products still sitting on shelves and potentially around Black Friday, there are stores looking to clearance that out. I mean, ETBs in several stores are already down to like $35, $36, which is a pretty decent price for an ETB. It might even drop lower than that, once we get closer to Black Friday, as people are starting to try and clear out, because early November, we're going to see the next set release here for English. The next one for Japan, actually, I think released today, which is Raging Surf. But the whole Paradox, and that will be 3 sets similar to Paldea Evolved, the combination of Paldea Evolved, which was Triplet Beat, Clayburst, and Snow Hazard. And I'll be putting a video together, hopefully in the next couple of weeks, doing a comparison of those. I know I skipped over that. Honestly, Ruler of the Black Flame was a little bit easier to get done, just because it was simpler and it was one set comparison to each other. So that's kind of the quick summary there. Please subscribe to the channel, leave a like, and leave a comment down below. Let me know what you thought of the video, what else you'd like to see. Looking to do some more comparisons of English versus Japanese, just because I've been particularly interested in the Japanese product. And it's a little bit hard to do just because it's more difficult to get, and the price can be a little bit higher overall when you're looking at some of those things. But in many cases, I think the value holds a little bit better. So I'm going to continue to try and do those for people out there that are looking to make their own decision, if they want to make the switch over. But thanks for stopping by. Really appreciate it. Be good to yourself and be good to others.